Right. Kalimera, Julia.
Boker Tov, Edith. Long
Okay.
time.
Long time, yes. But finally, we are in Exploring Reality 28. Today is July 15, 2021. The positive frequency is 199 and the negative frequency is 166. And we will say a few things about it. But let's start, yes. I'm often asked, and actually lately, I was asked, what do we want the logical reading or the logical observation for? And you also ask me from time to time, what does it mean? So you see, we are coming out of a system, of a culture where we sell things to improve the experience on Earth. And specifically, the particular experience, my particular experience, this is how marketing works. They tell you, get this service or this product or this course, and your life will be happier, much happier, as against how you are today, which is you are very miserable. And the logic does not do that. It does not promise anything but that we as a species can become connected to the source of existence, which is the non-existence. And whilst it is true that that connection allows one to be online, just the fact of being online is the very early awakening of our next phase, which is personal development. And what is personal development? It is a development in a dimension that is much more abstract than the concrete reality. It is the work of making notes of the mistakes and the faults and the endeavor to transform them into an ability to respond that which is incoming from the solar system via planet Earth. And this dimension is similar to what we call today the cyberspace. A friend of mine, Professor Oded Maimon from the University of Tel Aviv, he's a computer engineer and a mathematician who has been mounting for the last decade the Faculty of Consciousness and Science in the Tel Aviv University. And lately, after writing a few very different papers in mathematics, won a certain prize and started to get some recognition. And he offers this explanation. The cyberspace is not a concrete place. It is a space for programming, what later might turn to be a reality. In this space, which most of us are in most of the day, in the most we act there as users, we discover and elaborate new algorithms that much later might turn into practical tools for a reason. An algorithm is a piece of a very long mathematical and logical sequence that answers a need, say the algorithm for recognizing a face from a photo. And later, Facebook can use it to tap your friends in your photos. Yeah. So the cyberspace is not the concrete reality, but rather a much more abstract dimension, less gravitatorial, actually non-gravitational at all, that allows work in progress, programming, building the tools, if you'd like, that will be needed later in concrete reality. The logical observation is similar to that. With no such work, what we have left is the circuitries that produce the system so far, that seem not to work anymore, or seem to start to show cracks in the system. Why? Because they are becoming out of date. The whole space-time advances, and if we keep doing the same as we did before, well, we are not going to be writing into reality, rather just being affected by reality without the ability to respond. And we will be sending ourselves into a previous time, a slower time, as this is our compatibility. That is why when archaeologists look for the human prototype, they find many, and in different places and times, simply because when a species does not manage to be coherent with the updates, it turns primitive, and unless in that instance it is useful, then it will be sent to a previous one where it can be useful. So why one might get reborn in an earlier age to develop exactly from where they are for real. And I remind us that all times in that cyberspace are happening all at once. We were speaking about the two axes, the x-axis of the existence and the experience, and the y-axis, the axis of the self, which is the axis of one's essence. And the inflammation of the x-axis results in an ego, ego, that we know from the previous era, yes? Because the strong wins the battle, and today it is the commercial battle, and leaves all the rest outside the reality. They couldn't care less about the weak, yes? The online is in the Y, the online communication is in the Y-axis. It results in geo, G-E-O. And what do we see? We see what we call catastrophes of climate change and collapse of structures that belong to the previous era. See the climbing between the first appearance 3 million years ago, when the first physical tools were being created by men, to another jump 10, 20,000 years ago, when agriculture started to make my food where I am, and therefore a city, to 200 years ago, another jump when machines started, to 20 years ago, when the early signs of the information era were in the first internet, today moving into the conceptual era. This is where we are moving now. See that as an example, agriculture in the near future will change altogether, because in the cyberspace, we have created new algorithms which only need one cell from the cow to create milk. So we no longer are in the same instance, and all industries that will continue to grow cows in order to milk cows on an industrial base are going to find themselves out of date, with a regulatory system that does not uphold them any longer. And what happened that we have changed era, to my reading in 2020, as a pivotal point? Well, we see this clearly with COVID-19. We have all the information, but when you have the data, it doesn't mean that you have the knowledge, and it doesn't mean that you're wise, because governments and scientists are arguing how to read the data, and you need a framework to organize and connect data in order to make sense out of them. And this means new concepts. And what is the consequences of a development in the cyberspace, the name of which is psyche? The consequence is that reality is much less abrupt on you. The news is less shocking. And on a geologic realm, the catastrophe is milder, is softer, not so much water all at once. We have seen lately an example in Exploring Reality 25 about collective receptor 31 that spoke of water. Didn't we anticipate? And the Netherlands got it milder. And not only that, a group of Dutch people working on the logic, watching Exploring Reality 25, informed me a day later that the song of the Netherlands to the Eurovision dealt with water. I think its name was Water. And this is a infiltration, yes, but one that you cannot understand without the convergent concept. Let me share you a personal story from my family. Last week, a dear cousin of mine died. It is still not clear how it happened. Apparently, he was about to cross a pedestrian crossing in the railway, and the train sucked him in. However, although we don't live in the same country, last year I spent with him long conversations, trying to help him out of a stuck, repetitive situation in his life. And it did cross my mind that the level of stress and agony might cause him to search for a way out, even a suicidal act. And we are not sure if this was intentional, what happened. But just the thought that that his agony had to do with it does appear in all of us family members. At the time, I did speak with his brother and tried what I could from afar, and I loved him. So it is not less painful, but it was less shocking for me because something in me had anticipated the possibility. Psyche, which is a Greek word, is the totality of the human mind, conscious and unconscious. This is the cyberspace of our psychologies later, our identities and the other logics, even the logic of the body, the biology. And this is where Greece comes into the picture, the code of which is 30, and you asked about it. Because you see, let's see, it's 30. The nocturnal derivation is carried out in total self-reference. A successful derivation is one which the receiver makes the decision to dismantle the elements, the circuitries of the logic that are operating his processor, for which a plane 3 is required that observes the facts, but that does not judge or has an opinion or justifies or looks for console, anything in relation to what it sees. This is 3 in 0. 0 being neutral, natural, neutrino, whatever you like. Let's take theater, the Greek theater. It was obvious to 30 that men are connected and actually belong to nature. They hear a choir of frogs sing as part of the occasion and the event. Actually, it was obvious that humankind belongs to the solar system. Don't challenge the sun, yes? The focus on stars and gods coming or representing the stars was clear. Helios, Hermes, Aphrodite, Gaia, Ares, Zeus, Kronos, yes, Poseidon, the stars being the neurology of the expressed universe. Also, the two natures of time was clear with Chronos and Kairos, linear and nonlinear. But the whole idea of a process of learning and transformation through theater and how you can manipulate from the one hand and educate from the other, evolve through comedy and tragedy and Deus ex machina, yes? You see this. Today, you don't need theater. We are not in that instance because reality took this function big time. Greece opened the divergence, allowed the foundations. The beginning and end are the same point. There was a lot of philosophy to put words to it. And nowadays, it can open a lot of logic, neutral. And we are waiting for Greece to do it. Elada. Put an 8 at the beginning and you get helada, which is frozen in Spanish. Greece needs to defreeze at this time of return to the source. At these convergent times. In Hebrew, it is Yavan, which comes from the Ionians, giving it the names to those from outside, Ionic, because the psyche, the cyberspace for development is Ionic, belongs to the ionosphere. It has got this grace, Greece, of the neurology at its neutral point. And because Earth is 3, it listens. It gives priority to the planet, the whole planet, rather than sections of it. We are all dependent on the waking up of this collective receptor. It is scientific at this neutrality, being able to observe what they see and speak it out. Now, an inquiry from 972 is that I spoke of the corona and the disease being a biologization in a way that it is like a positive process. And they asked me to explain it. So in the faster and abstract planes from 9 to 6, see the mathematics of the calendar, because today is positive 199 and negative 166. And the gap between them is 33. And this only happens inside a group of 365 spaces. But okay, from the abstract planes, we receive input from the solar source. And scientists can measure and detect these arrivals. But I would say generally light, okay? Light is the obvious vehicle for the updates. The space which receives them is called the psyche. It is a Greek word. Yes, it is. Before this information slows down and turns in our system, according to our conditionings, into a psychology. Of course, nobody tells us so, like nobody told us when we were little that the industrial food has much lesser nutritives. There are many reasons for that, but let's say that before industrial food and its consequences, it couldn't be really known and measured. So if we are aware to the psyche, then rather than just a lot of unconscious stuff we process without knowing it, and without registering it, and without the ability to develop, we become aware that we are in process of update from the solar system. An active development handles them, handles the signals, and they become anticipation, meaning getting the resource before the test, the concrete test. But when the psyche can't handle it, it goes straight into the body via a non-conscious channel, and the body deals with it. It is the same with the planet. If the psyche of the species can't slow down the incoming signals by observation, then it goes down very strongly into the land and the waters and the fire, etc., the accidents. When we get weak symptoms, it means that work has been done in the cyberspace and therefore slow down the potency of the incoming signals. In the case of COVID, what makes the symptoms severe is the response of the immune system. This is the framework we have from past eras of the immune system, that it protects us. Because in the past era, protection was one of the main errors in our perception. The immune system protects against viruses, they will tell you, and diseases, and produces antibodies to kill pathogens. Now, all this might be true, but when looked at it from another concept, a concept of communication, that the immune system is a system of communication, you will get another response altogether. And we haven't developed a concept that is outside the survival paradigm. So the immune system responds.
Any pregnant?
Sorry?
Any pregnant woman could say another story about the immune system during pregnancy. They lose up to from 80 to 90% of their immunity in order to host a new life, to communicate with it, and support the new existence. And her immunity system, it is never the same after giving birth. So I believe we do have the storage of information to draw examples from this, but we don't have the alignment to the new perception that would shed light to this new experience of the species.
Yeah, excellent example. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. So yes, science knows, but doesn't put it all together. Yeah. And 30 can start changing these old concepts. Because the system that finances all of our existence for a reason, for a purpose, does not all of a sudden attack. Yes, it might come hard on those who are still celebrating their using of the system for fun and entertainment, and therefore turning out of currency. Today is a day in the Jewish tradition where they believe the 2 temples in Jerusalem were destroyed because of the lack of development, which is the hate and the violence of the Jewish people. Like sin and punishment, all of these mystical religious storytales for education did not educate. Yeah, because it's the same situation today. And that time for romanticism is over. Game is over. Stay there in search of console, and the universe will place you where you belong, in the job of transiting that past. And the cyberspace is an exploration space, as we are doing now. Not for search of console, rather for search for truth and true connection. And I hope this throws some light on current events, especially in Europe at this time.
Absolutely. Can I add a small example to what you said? Yesterday, I had the privilege to be invited in a dinner party of a 34-year-old man. And I was amongst the generation of the 20s and 30s. And I really felt two, very, very strong things. I wish I could tell these young people how easy it is to release their brilliance of who they are. And I knew that I could not do it for them. They have to do and walk the path. And at the same time, I felt the easement in my 50s that I don't have to go through again the same way. And the moment I thought about it, I realized that this is the sense of my soul speaking to me, knowing and having the confidence of my brilliance, speaking to my ear all the years of my life. Many times, managing to come through. But the moment you start to get the threads of your source and the connection, then you can see back or you can see fraud, but being really in the position, a Eucharistic position, a grace, and then you can say to yourself and to the moment, release the brilliance of who you are, release the potential of the moment and of the people you are attracted to, and you join this moment together. So it came, this invitation for them, for this video today, and it makes so much sense. And I want also to thank you for this. It always makes sense, it is updated to our moment. And it is refreshing. And thank you for Greece and what you logged in. A fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. Thank you for this edition. And yes, it does feel always fresh and pressing in.
Till next.
Till next. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.